Ben Shapiro, of course, married to a physician. I don't know if she works as a physician, but he's called her a doctor in the past. Apparently, also, I think told him that women can't have orgasms. I think medically,
it's totally normal if they're bone dry down there.
Okay, yeah.
He also likes to talk about his wife in the context of the doctor, if she has to be a slave doctor, as in like work for like Medicare and Medicaid patients.
Right, of course, yes.
This is his take on what's going to happen if abortion is restricted in the United States, and he thinks this is perfectly acceptable.
Even if Roe versus Wade is overturned, the law in New York is not going to be the same as the law in Mississippi. And everybody who studies law understands this because that was the case before Roe versus Wade. California had some pretty liberal abortion laws. New York had some pretty liberal abortion laws. And Texas had some pretty strict abortion laws before Roe versus Wade went into place. Nonetheless, the fact that the Supreme Court is now considering the possibility of disestablishing a constitutional right to abortion, which again does not exist. It was made up out of whole cloth in an entire line of cases stretching all the way back to Griswold through Eisenstadt v. Baird, all the way up through Planned Parenthood versus Casey. That supposed constitutional right to abortion was made up directly out of the colons of Supreme Court justices who had political leanings in favor of a pro-choice position. Even if it were overruled, if ladies wanted to get abortions, all they have to do is not be in Texas. And they could go over the border to Mexico, and presumably they'd be able to get an abortion there. They could go over to California, get an abortion there. Listen, I would prefer a nationwide regime wherein no one can get an abortion except in cases where the mother's life is in danger. But that's not the way the federalist system works. And because of that, that means that there will be state differences in how abortion law is applied. But the left is losing it.
All right. Well, first off, we were pretty clear about this with Natalie Scher in the last segment, which is this is a class issue in that regard.
Yeah. Because
the idea of taking days, weeks, multiple visits, whatever it is, across the border is expensive. And it is going to be out of the reach of many women who are working class, who are low income. A. B, it's also quite possible that Texas could say it is illegal for you to go across,
cross. Yeah, I mean, they may even start to do state lines. Like you should, if you're a resident of this state and Republicans say they win on the federal level, they could make a bill that says crossing state lines to get an abortion is not legal.
Maybe you could see a Texas case that says, well, if you cross state lines, somebody can sue you for getting an abortion there. But nevertheless, the idea that this is made up from whole cloth is a very myopic way of looking at a constitution where, Ben Shapiro certainly would support the Second Amendment, which in the entirety of the existence of the Second Amendment in this country, a couple hundred years, the idea that it was a right for individuals to carry a weapon was not even remotely the case until 2008 in this country. This is the way that our Constitution and our system works, that principles exist in the Constitution and they are applied to the real world. And sometimes they are applied, and in my estimation, they're always applied by political actors. Those judges are political actors. And it's very, very difficult to complain that there is no right to an abortion, but there is a right to an individual to carry a weapon. This is really just ultimately a system in which we sort of bank shot vote on what values we want as a society.
It's all made up of a whole cloth. I mean, I'm sure Ben Shapiro would also agree with the Citizens United ruling. I'm sure he would agree with the concept that money is speech, which was made up entirely out of whole cloth. It's just, as you say, what we choose to value and what we choose to prioritize as a society. But let's just back up for 1 second. What he's basically saying is that if Texan women want to get essential female healthcare services, it makes the most sense, just logically, for them to cross into another country to have that done for them.
Right.
It's the same shit that he does all the time. If you live in an area that's going to get flooded and by climate change, just move.
Sell your house to somebody.
If you don't like living in Texas, like the way that I, Ben Shapiro, who has unlimited resources that my viewers do not have access to, was able to uproot my entire life to move to fucking Nashville or wherever he lives because he decided to make a political statement and I'll live in California, and then also he could get some tax breaks to build his big Daily Wire studio. Like, I mean, they're so disconnected from how most people, from what the resources most people have. It's the same thing. I mean, you can make constant
let's also be clear, too.
Monoclonal antibodies, whatever.
The other thing he's trying to do is they know that a reversal of Roe v. Wade is unpopular with the vast majority of Americans. And they know that this is more of what we're seeing in terms of minoritarian rule in this country. We have it in the Senate. We have it in the House, where Democrats need 40 million more votes to get the same amount of representation in the Senate as the Republicans. That we see it in states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania in terms of representation on a statewide basis. And they're a little worried about the dog chasing the car and actually catching the car. And so this is what they're doing now, is to say it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's all like reactionary audiences want right now. When you see like Tim Pool or contrarian substackers, is the slop that the piggies want in their trough is that the left is freaking out about it. That's what Ben Shapiro ended that statement with. The left is just going crazy with this, right? Like, I do want this insane stuff, but actually that's not what's happening. And that's the message for all this, right? Like, just move, or this or that. It's that's what that audience wants to hear, is the left it's like Trump derangement syndrome.
And how is it not if it's not such a big deal? I mean, then that kind of undercuts the entire existential argument that conservatives have been making about abortion being murder.
Well, that's the thing, is that they're turning on a dime in there. I mean, it is a little bit reminiscent of like people are saying, like, we're going to teach the Democrats a lesson, and they're going to lose, and they're going to realize they're going to have to come to us for their votes, and then the Democrats lose, and they're like, it's not our fault. Yeah. I mean, wait, what? You did that was that's your whole strategy. But the minimizing of this, let's be clear. The Supreme Court is saying it is up to the states. If they overturn Roe v. Wade, they're saying it is up to the states to determine whether a woman has, or a trans man has, autonomy over their body. They're saying it is not a right to not be subjected to forced pregnancy. It is not a right to not be subjected to forced birth. That's what they're saying. How different states react, we don't know. We can guess, but they're saying that there is a lack of a right that exists, that the state can force you to carry to term a pregnancy.
Because these kinds of the rights that we're talking about here, the right for a woman to have control over her own body, that's exactly what even insane conservatives concede, that the Constitution is supposed to enshrine certain inalienable rights that cannot be infringed upon. But what this does is basically says that a woman specifically, as distinct from a man or a trans man, as you say, that is not sufficiently important that it can be enshrined on a federal level. And like, that's okay, that's just sexism, and that's just like attempting to make women second-class citizens. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, it is. That's why you got a guy like Shapiro, who is a religious fundamentalist. He's very excited about it.
But they know they're not. They know religious fundamentalism isn't really cool, so then they have to downplay the consequences of their religious fundamentalism.
Which is why you see in the Ben Burgess Charlie Kirk debate, Charlie's like, I'm making a secular argument here. Yeah.